Hollowbody, a survival horror game slated for a 2024 release and inspired by early 2000s entries into the genre, had a short demo released a couple days ago. From what I've seen online, this game has been on survival horror fans' radar since 2022, and though I personally hadn't heard of it until yesterday, I saw Headwear Games, the developer of Hollowbody, make a tweet calling it a dystopian alt-future take on Silent Hill. I knew that, like Denny's, I had to see what the fuck was up. Before we get into the review, let's talk about the developer a little. Under the About section on Headwear Games' Steam page, it says, UK-based solo developer making narrative-driven experiences with a strong focus on atmosphere and art direction. This is good news to someone like me who believes that art direction and atmosphere are two of, if not the most important things when it comes to creating any survival horror game. It's also really nice to know that there's a single person out there dedicated to this game, willing to undertake the task all by themselves to share their vision with us. And though I'll be giving my honest opinion on the demo, the good and the bad, I'll be doing so with the intention of giving constructive criticism so that the developer can make the best possible version of the game that they want to make. If you want to play the demo yourself, I highly recommend it, as I'll be going really in depth here. If you're interested at all, please go check it out yourself. It's really good. Also, before we start, I've got a link tree now, and I'm going to put that in the description, so you guys should go follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. With that said, let's make like a baby and head out into the world of Hollowbody. The demo begins with a still frame of a body that we'll find later in the demo, and a caption that reads, "Some parts of this game may be considered violent, disturbing, or cruel." A clear nod to the original Silent Hill, and an inclusion that I was happy to see because I'm a freak who really enjoys games that could be considered violent, disturbing, and cruel. From there we get the demo's main menu, and a shot of the main character overlooking a city from what appears to be her bedroom. Her back to us, she lights up a cigarette or a cigar or a jointy-wointy. I can't really see it, so I'm going to go with the latter. This menu gives us some insight into the game itself. It's dark and it's moody. There's no music, just the sound of the rain pitter-pattering on the window. It's all atmosphere, and I love it. After hitting the start button, some text scrolls across the screen, informing us that this is a work-in-progress demonstration intended to showcase the core mechanics and visual features of the game, and that some things have been modified for the purpose of the demo, followed by some more text telling us that it's created by one person and asking us to go wishlist the game to show support, which you should all go do right now. The link to the game's Steam page is in the description. The game begins with our character, Mika, in some sort of flying car, which she calls a hover, flying over a different part of the city that we saw earlier, but this time there's no lights on in any of the buildings, letting us know that if there is anyone living down there, they're few and far between. The navigation system in the hover warns Mika that the weather is becoming too severe, but she's got more important things to worry about. She brushes the warning off and asks the navigation system if it can hold on just a little bit longer, because they're about 3 miles from where Sasha was posted. We'll learn more about Sasha later though, because moments after that, the navigation system, as well as the entire hover, begin to malfunction, and then starts descending into the abandoned city for a crash landing. We get some more scrolling text on top of different shots of the city that we just crashed in, letting us know that Mika tried using her radio to call for help, but couldn't get any signal through the storm. Despite the crash, Mika is still concerned about Sasha, and she knows that if either of them are going to make it out of there, she needs to find a good spot where her radio can get a signal so that she can call for help. Mika emerges from the hover, and it's got those cool flip-up doors that futuristic vehicles always have, and now the demo really begins. I started by making a quick circle around the car to get a feel for the controls. Nothing crazy to note, no dodge mechanic, just your standard run-of-the-mill controls for a game like this, and they feel fine, I have no complaints. Mika limps onwards, injured from the crash, and it becomes apparent quite quickly that the part of the city she's in is in fact abandoned. It looks like some sort of battle or war happened, and things are in a total state of disarray. The blacktop on the road has been demolished, now only home to abandoned vehicles that look equally as fucked, and many of the houses are badly damaged from whatever took place here. Every once in a while, a notification pops up that says System Critical, the game's way of letting us know that Mika is pretty badly injured, and I really like this. It hasn't been stated anywhere, but it's giving me cyberpunk vibes, as if Mika has some sort of cybernetic implants that the player can kind of use like a built-in HUD. I absolutely love when a game has an in-universe reason for a HUD. It helps with immersion for one, but also, it's really fucking cool. Further on up the road, Mika comes across an ambulance, and in the back there's a medical container with some medical repair spray, as well as a weird-looking growth that's slowly been spreading out and around the ambulance. Not sure what it is, but it's icky. Once we've acquired the repair spray, we're prompted to open our inventory for the first time. and it reminds me of the inventory menu from the original Siphon Filter on the PS1, which is pretty lit. On the left side, we see a 3D map. In the middle, we have a heartbeat monitor with the word danger above it. Below the heartbeat monitor, we have two icons that indicate we'll at some point be using both ranged and melee weapons, and at the top right, we have 4 buttons for items, documents, system options, and the map itself. Hitting the items option shows us everything in our inventory. A D-series revolver, which we'll be getting acquainted with later as we don't have any ammunition for it currently, our radio, a lighter that Mika says is an old family heirloom, and our repair spray. After using the repair spray to heal Mika, I decided to open up the Documents tab, and it pulled up a letter from Sasha, giving us some insight on what exactly we're doing here. Sasha explains that, despite Mika's fears about Sasha going into this abandoned part of the city, she has to go because there's something she needs to know, and that it'll be a quick and easy job. She'll be back before Mika even knows she's gone. Needless to say, it didn't turn out that way. I really like that the game doesn't tell us we have the letter. It's just there in case we decide to look. It's a small but really cool use of the inventory system that I wish more games took advantage of. Now we've used the repair spray, and Mika is back at full health. We're now able to run. We go further up the road, passing more of those weird growths coming out of cars, and eventually, a giant industrial mech that's toppled over one of the houses. Not too far from here, we find a document laying on the ground, which seems to be an observational report on some of the people that lived here, and some of the lines appear to be marked with a red X. The demo doesn't really elaborate too much on what it was that destroyed this part of the city, but given the weird growths everywhere in the observational report, I think it's safe to say that some sort of bio-experiment went wrong. Eventually, we come upon an abandoned apartment building with an illuminated window, indicating to us that maybe someone is still alive here. Before investigating the window, I decided to take a look around the outside, where I found an absolutely massive growth around the side of the building. And this is the first time Mika acknowledges them, stating she's never seen anything like it and wonders if it was at some point alive. After exploring the parking lot and finding some revolver rounds near a corpse in what looks to be a guard shack, we push a dumpster over to some scaffolding in order to climb through the window with the light. Inside, we find shelter from the rain, but much like the city streets, the interior of this apartment building is absolutely fucked. There's a container on the wall that's locked up, and Mika remarks that maybe she can find a way to break into it. And with that, we exit the apartment room into a stairwell. On the wall, there's a map with one of the rooms X'd out and the words, "We used to be happy," written underneath it. To the right of the map is an iron gate that's been sealed shut with expanding foam. There's nothing we can really do here, so we head up 2 flights of stairs into a really dark hallway. The game prompts us to turn our flashlight on, and to our left is a door with a keypad next to it that's lit up green, signaling to us that it's unlocked. And even though there isn't anything of note inside the room, it's a nice way of letting the player know that all we have to do is visually inspect these doors as we're running past them to see if they're unlocked. Anyone that's ever played Silent Hill 2, or really any old school survival horror game, knows what a relief this is. We proceed further down the hallway and eventually find ourselves in another apartment, and this one isn't completely empty. There's a newspaper on the table with an article about a social enrichment charity that's going to invest into the city of Barnston and hopefully revitalize it by bringing new jobs and opportunity to the people that are living there. I think it's safe to assume that Barnston is the town that we're located in currently, and apparently the effects of the investment didn't work out quite the way everyone hoped. It's just a guess, but I'm thinking that the organization that was responsible for this investment was probably also responsible for whatever experiment took place here, and now this part of the city has been walled off completely with no one allowed to enter or exit so as to keep it all a secret from the rest of society. In the bedroom of the apartment, we find a corpse sitting straight up on a bed with its back against the wall. As we move closer, the camera fixes itself behind a small lamp, and this angle is great. I haven't mentioned it yet, but this game utilizes a mix of dynamic and fixed camera angles, and they work great to really show the player a scene in a specific way, and it's something I've desperately missed from more modernized horror games. After we take the keycard from the corpse, we can inspect it once more, and Mika comments on there being nothing left but the sorry corpse of an addict. But I'm not so sure that's what this was. Considering those growths all over the body, it seems more likely that perhaps this was the product of a failed experiment, and despite the needle still stuck in the arm of the corpse, it could have been something prescribed to this person rather than your standard overdose victim. Leaving the room and exploring the other apartments, Mika's radio starts acting up. Opening up the inventory and selecting the radio initiates a little cutscene, which seems to be a conversation that nearly turns into a domestic dispute between either Mika and Sasha, or maybe the people who lived in this apartment before. I'm not sure. Either way, pretty neat that the radio has a function other than being our ticket out of here. Soon we make our way to a room with a giant hole in the floor that was made with a missile that never detonated, and immediately after that, a phone rings. buildings, and Mika has a conversation with what she thinks is an old service bot used to take calls for people. But it denies this, and then when asked whether or not it's seen Sasha anywhere, it just says some cryptic shit about only seeing what they see. I'm not sure who they are, but when Mika tells this thing she's hanging up, it warns her to watch out for the strays, as they haven't eaten a proper meal in weeks, and then we're able to save our progress. I think it's safe to say that we'll be getting a taste of combat soon. Towards the back of this apartment, we find the room of a child, and what appears to be some supernatural stuff happens. A stuffed animal seems to walk off the edge of the bed as a child's rotating glow lamp turns on and then winds down slowly before dying. On a nearby table is a child's drawing, and on the bed is the body of a kid who drew it. It's sad stuff, and I hate that the kid never got to become a bazillionaire and eat pizza every day, because that truly does sound like a life worth living. In the bedroom just past the child's room, we find a picture of a child with a hammer sticking out of it that we can use to open the wall in the bathroom to leave the apartment. We continue to explore the building, finding more supplies here and there, as well as a dead guy whose occupation is deemed classified by our HUD. And then as we round a corner, we hear the sounds of someone pounding on a door. As we get closer, the door is shown to be locked, and there's a club with some nails affixed to the end of it sticking out of the door. This is our first melee weapon, and after we take it, the door kicks open, which actually kind of startled me, I'm not gonna lie about it. From inside, we hear the sounds of a woman crying, and as we enter, we get a short cutscene. Whatever this thing is, it's not human, and if it was, it's not human anymore. It's hunched over the corpse of a woman, probably feeding off of her, and as we get closer, it turns its attention towards Mika, and we can see just how disgusting it really looks. Mika takes aim, and then reloads her revolver, because I'd forgotten to do that, and then proceeds to cap this bitch in the face like a total G. Just beyond the corpse of the woman that thing was feeding on is a wall safe, and using the pictures around the room, I was able to figure out what the combination of the lock was, opening the safe to reveal a key. Leaving the apartment, the music and atmosphere have changed a bit, giving the place a much more oppressive feeling, warning us that this place is no longer safe. And sure enough, as we enter another room, we're attacked by another ghoul. I popped a couple caps, but then decided to try my hand at some melee combat, and though I nearly died in the process, I was able to bash its head in with the club. We continue on through the building, fighting a few more enemies here and there, until we find a gate that we can use the key from earlier on, and after unlocking it, the demo ends. Overall, I really enjoyed my roughly 30-minute playthrough. The story is interesting, and the demo gave me just enough to really be curious about Mika and Sasha, that thing on the phone that warned us about the strays, and whatever experiments were conducted on the people that lived in Barnston. The sound design and atmosphere work really well, not overbearing, but always present. And accompanied by the fixed camera angles, the game really does a good job keeping the player on the edge of their seat with anxiety. The graphics might be a bit dated by most people's standards, but make no mistake, the game is spooky regardless of graphical fidelity. I also really like the design of the creatures. Simple but effective, their spindly arms and legs accompanied by the way they sound like a sobbing woman, it gave me the creeps. I'm also a big fan of the way that the demo didn't over-explain itself. I was able to find Sasha's letter in the inventory without being told about it, and this is indicative of a game that doesn't hold the player's hands, but instead understands that they're intelligent enough to explore and find things on their own. Fucking love that. Chef's kiss. I think some people may find the environments a bit drab. There's a lot of gray everywhere, and sometimes things have that washed-out PS3 look to them, but personally, I feel like this is an artistic choice that fits the setting of the game and makes things that are bright and colorful, like the child's rotating glow lamp, pop more than they would otherwise. My single complaint through the whole demo was the melee combat. For the most part, I didn't have any issue bashing ghouly faces, but one of the ghouls in particular, that I'll put on screen for you now, gave me such a hard time. As I'd hit it, it would be pushed back or to the side a little, and the fixed camera angle, while adding a layer of tension to the fight, also made this particular altercation a little bit frustrating. At one point, you can see the ghoul was straight up matrix dodging my attacks, and although it's a small complaint, and the only one that I have really, I thought it was worth mentioning. I really enjoyed Hollowbody. I wishlisted the game, and I can't wait for it to release so that I can play through the rest of it. The demo really scratched an itch for me that few other games have been able to in the last 15 years, and I'm excited to see where this and Headwear Games goes. I definitely recommend this game to anyone who's into the horror genre, and especially those that are into survival horror. And I'd also like to remind everyone that wishlisting this game doesn't cost you anything, but it's still a really good way to show support for a title that's being created by a single person. And I want to encourage everyone to go do that. So again, there's a link to the game's Steam page in the description below. I hope you've all enjoyed my extremely detailed review of a 30-minute demo. I'm not really sure why I decided to go so in-depth, but I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to show my full appreciation. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button with your fingers and the subscribe button with your perpetually hard peepees. I hope you all have a wonderful day.